Hey guys, tonight we're slipping into something truly dreamlike, a story bathed in soft moonlight and wrapped in layers of ancient silk. You'll wander through fragrant gardens where the night air carries the scent of orange blossoms and rosewater. Somewhere in the shadows, a palace glows faintly under the stars, its walls shimmering as though spun from moonbeams themselves. And yes, you guessed it, this isn't exactly a story where you'd last very long. Between the dizzying perfumes, the winding alleyways, and the risk of falling into an ornamental fountain, let's just say you wouldn't survive a single moonlit banquet. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it for you right now? Leave your answer in the comments below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're walking through a narrow stone passage, your footsteps muffled by thick layers of Persian carpets. The air is heavy with the aroma of cardamom and incense, swirling lazily like morning mist in an orchard. As you move forward, you find yourself stepping into a courtyard bathed in silvery moonlight, its edges framed by dark cypress trees standing tall and still, as though they too are listening. Somewhere nearby, water trickles from a marble fountain, its sound soft and rhythmic, like a lullaby whispered by the earth itself. This is no ordinary courtyard. In its centre blooms a garden, lush beyond belief, with jasmine vines winding around polished stone columns and pomegranate trees bowing under the weight of their jewelled fruit. And there, just beyond the garden's edge, a narrow path winds deeper into the shadows, leading to a hidden place whispered about only in the quietest corners of old bazaar stalls. They call it Bag-e-Ma, the Garden of the Moon. Some say it was planted by starlight alone. Others claim it appeared overnight, growing from the spilled dreams of a queen too bold to fear the heavens. But tonight you are here. As you walk, you feel something peculiar. The stones beneath your feet are warm, almost as if they have been touched by sunlight, though the night is cool and still. The walls shimmer faintly, their tiles catching the moon's glow and bending it into intricate patterns of blues and silvers. You pause under an archway carved with verses in delicate Persian script, barely legible in the dim light. The words speak of longing, of beauty, of the moon's quiet companionship on sleepless nights. It's then that you hear it, a distant melody, soft as silk sliding over skin, floating through the night air. Drawn by the sound, you follow it through another archway and into a vast garden courtyard, where the moon herself seems to have descended. Pools of still water mirror the sky above so perfectly that you almost stumble, unsure whether you are walking upon earth or drifting through the heavens. And at the very heart of this celestial garden stands a figure. She is draped in robes of sapphire and silver, her hair dark as midnight, adorned with tiny pearls that glimmer like stars. Her gaze meets yours, calm and knowing. Without speaking, she raises her hand and gestures toward the grand palace behind her. A palace built not for kings nor for gods, but for the moon. A soft laugh escapes her lips, delicate and haunting. Come, she seems to say, though no words are spoken aloud. Let me show you how the moon was once invited to dance upon the earth. You find yourself moving forward, your every step slower, heavier, as though you are being drawn deeper into the night's embrace. As you near the palace doors, tall, arched, inlaid with silver and mother of pearl, the air grows sweeter, tinged with saffron and rose petals. You wonder almost absently whether this is how people felt walking through the gates of paradise. And as the doors begin to open before you, revealing the wonders within, you can't help but think, this is definitely the part where historians would argue endlessly over what really happened. But you don't have time to dwell on that now. The story has only just begun. You step inside and instantly your senses are overwhelmed. The palace is quiet. Not the kind of silence that feels empty, but one that hums softly, like a secret kept for centuries. Every surface glimmers under the faint light, casting reflections that sway and shimmer with each breath of air. Your footsteps are hushed against the smooth tiles, glazed with a pale blue sheen, as though you're walking upon frozen moonlight itself. The walls curve gracefully, covered in intricate mosaics that seem to change as you move. One moment depicting scenes of nightingales in rose gardens, the next showing sailing ships drifting across a silver sea. And above it all, the ceiling arches high and vast, painted in deep indigo, scattered with flecks of gold leaf to mimic the night sky. So convincing that for a moment you feel dizzy, as though the stars themselves are spinning overhead. Here, the Queen's presence lingers. Her name? Mapari Khatun, Queen Fairy of the Moon, a name woven from moonlight and myth, whispered through bazaars and caravanserais from Samarkand to Shiraz. Historians, of course, bicker endlessly over her existence. Some say she was a real queen consort, a noblewoman of unmatched beauty and wisdom. Others insist she was a poetic invention, a personification of longing itself. But none of that matters to you right now. Because here, in this palace, she feels entirely real. You wander deeper, tracing your fingers along a carved wooden lattice screen, where tiny geometric cutouts allow moonlight to spill through in delicate, shifting patterns. There's a soft scent here, orange blossom mingled with musk, and the faintest sound of music lingers in the air, played on instruments you can't quite name. Somewhere beyond you hear laughter, not loud or brash, but soft, almost conspiratorial, like silk sliding across bare skin. You turn a corner and find yourself in another courtyard, this one smaller and more intimate. In its centre stands a pool shaped like a crescent moon, filled with water so clear that you can see the marble tiles lining its bottom, each tile etched with stars. Around the pool, cushions are strewn carelessly, though you can't shake the feeling that every detail here was planned with exquisite precision. As you settle near the water's edge, you notice something strange. The surface of the pool ripples faintly, though no wind stirs the air. And then you realize the moon's reflection in the pool isn't quite right. It seems larger, closer, as though the moon itself is watching you. A chill trickles down your spine, but it's not unpleasant. Somehow you feel welcome here, even as the palace's secrets unfurl around you like tendrils of smoke. Your thoughts drift to the Queen again, this woman who dared to dream of capturing the moon, to build not for wealth or war, but for beauty. They say she once stood here, right where you sit now, gazing at that same pool, whispering prayers to the heavens. And yes, in true courtly fashion, some claimed she was mad. What sort of ruler pours her kingdom's riches into a palace designed purely to enchant the night? But others spoke of her differently. They said she understood something no one else did. That beauty, when woven carefully enough into stone and story, could outlast even empires. And as you sit there, watching the moon's reflection ripple in that impossible pool, you begin to wonder if she was right. Somewhere nearby, a bell tolls softly. The sound echoes through the corridors, gentle and low, like a heartbeat. You rise to your feet and begin to walk again, passing through a narrow hallway where the walls shimmer with pale blue tiles shaped like waves. You catch glimpses of scenes, courtiers lounging with goblets of wine, poets reciting verses under lantern light, dancers spinning in silken robes, and always, always, the moon watching from above. You can't help but smile. It's almost absurd, isn't it? To build an entire palace to court the moon. But then again, who among us hasn't stared at the night sky and wished we could pull it just a little closer? Your steps carry you forward, deeper into this dream woven of stone and silver. And somewhere in the distance you hear it again, that soft, lilting laughter. The queen is waiting. The laughter drifts through the corridors, tugging at you like a silken thread. You follow it, weaving through shadowed archways and quiet chambers, where the scent of saffron and honey still lingers in the air. The walls glisten with mother-of-pearl mosaics, shaped into swirling vines and crescent moons that seem to pulse softly under the glow of the lanterns. Your fingers brush along cool marble columns as you move, and somewhere in the distance you hear water trickling through hidden channels, a sound so soothing that it makes your shoulders loosen, your breath slow. And then, just beyond a curtain of sheer silk, you step out into a grand courtyard bathed in soft silver light. Before you stretches Isfahan itself, though not as it is now, but as it once was in the days when poets called it half the world. You stand high above the city, gazing out from a balcony carved from rose quartz and framed with latticed wood. Below, the city hums gently, the streets winding like ribbons under the moonlight, their curves leading to bustling squares and quiet gardens. You watch as shadows drift through the alleyways, merchants returning from the bazaar, night watchmen patrolling with lanterns, stray cats weaving between spice stalls left to cool in the night air. And there, in the heart of it all, lies the square of Naqsh-e-Jahan, its great dome glowing faintly, reflecting back the moonlight in shimmering shades of turquoise and gold. It's almost enough to take your breath away. But your eyes are drawn back to the palace itself, to the space around you, which feels suspended between earth and sky. Here the queen's influence lingers strongest. They say she designed this balcony herself, sketching its arches by candlelight with ink made from crushed lapis lazuli and jasmine oil. Her vision was clear. She wanted a place where one could gaze upon the city and the heavens in the same glance. Historians predictably still argue whether such a design could truly belong to her. Some insist it was the work of a famed architect from Shiraz, a man so elusive that even his name is lost to time. Others, however, point to old letters and court documents that speak of the Queen's unusual obsession with architecture, geometry, and, above all, the moon. But none of that matters now, because here you are, standing exactly where she once stood, with the city sprawling below and the moon hanging just above. A soft breeze stirs the air, carrying with it the scent of jasmine and cloves. You lean against the railing, letting the cool stone press against your palms, and you wonder what it must have felt like to rule over this glowing kingdom. They say the Queen would come here every night, alone, wrapped in silks the colour of midnight. While the city slept, she would whisper her secrets to the moon, her hopes, her regrets, her plans for the palace. And some say the moon whispered back. You can almost imagine it, her delicate figure framed by the archways, her face upturned toward the night sky, her eyes reflecting starlight. What dreams must have passed through her mind? What sorrows? You take a deep breath, and for a moment you feel weightless, like you could drift right off the balcony, carried away on the night air. Of course, you remind yourself, with a small, amused smile, this is the sort of moment when you definitely trip over your own robes and fall dramatically into a fountain. Still, the magic lingers. Somewhere below you hear the soft chiming of bells, perhaps from the camel caravans passing through the city gates, or maybe from a midnight wedding procession winding its way through the streets. And above it all the moon watches, calm and constant. You wonder, did the Queen ever wish to leave it all behind? To slip away from the weight of crowns and courtly games, to disappear into the night like a shadow? Perhaps. But then again, she didn't build this palace to escape. She built it to invite the world in, to offer them a glimpse of something rare, fleeting, and impossibly beautiful. You glance back over your shoulder, drawn once more toward the laughter echoing through the corridors. It's softer now, almost a whisper, but it still calls to you. You turn away from the city, from the quiet streets below, and step back into the heart of the palace. The Queen is waiting, and her story is far from over. You slip back inside, leaving behind the cool night air and the distant hum of Isfahan. The palace welcomes you like a warm embrace. Velvety shadows curl along the walls, and the faint flicker of oil lamps casts a soft golden glow on everything it touches. Pillows embroidered with gold thread, low tables carved from sandalwood, bowls brimming with figs and candied almonds. It feels like stepping deeper into a dream. As you walk, you notice that every corridor here seems to bend gently, curving like the arc of the moon itself. No harsh lines, no abrupt corners, just soft, flowing paths that pull you forward. And then, almost without realizing it, you find yourself standing before a grand hall. The doors are carved from dark walnut, inlaid with tiny mother-of-pearl crescents that catch the light and shimmer faintly, like stars caught in wood. You pause, your fingers tracing the intricate patterns, and you feel the faintest pulse beneath your touch, as though the palace itself is alive, waiting. You push the doors open, and the sight before you steals your breath. The Moon Hall. It stretches wide and endless, its floor laid with polished marble in swirling patterns of ivory and silver. The walls are covered with vast tapestries woven from silk and gold thread, each depicting scenes of night markets under starlight, lovers meeting in secret gardens, and ships sailing under glowing moons. But it's the ceiling that leaves you spellbound. It's a vast dome, carved and painted to resemble the night sky. But not just any sky. This one shifts as you gaze upon it. Stars seem to twinkle and slide across its surface, tracing slow, deliberate paths. The constellations here are unfamiliar, old and strange, with names lost to time. But somehow they feel familiar, and in the very center of the dome, a great silver moon glows softly, bathing the entire room in its cool, pale light. This is where the Queen held court, not in the grand audience halls crowded with scheming viziers and foreign envoys. No, her true court was here, under this ever-changing sky. Here, only artists, poets, and dreamers were allowed entry, those who could weave beauty from words and song, from fabric and fragrance. They say she would sit upon a low dais, dressed in flowing robes that shimmered like starlight, her hair adorned with pearls and tiny bells that chimed with every movement. Her throne, a cushion embroidered with the phases of the moon. And those who entered her moon hall were expected to leave behind all matters of politics and war. Here, only the night mattered. You wander further inside, feeling the marble cool under your bare feet, and your eyes are drawn to a curious sight. In the center of the room stands a large circular fountain, but instead of water it is filled with polished silver discs, each etched with lines and curves like a celestial map. As the breeze stirs the air, the discs shift and spin, reflecting the light of the moon above and sending it dancing across the walls. Some say these were crafted by the Queen herself. Others believe they were gifts from distant lands, relics from forgotten civilizations that understood the language of the stars. And yes, in true historical fashion, scholars still squabble endlessly over their origins. Some claim they are nothing more than decorative baubles, while others argue they are ancient astronomical devices, capable of predicting lunar eclipses and planetary alignments. But none of that matters here. You find yourself mesmerized, watching as the silver lights swirl across the room, wrapping everything in a soft, otherworldly glow. Somewhere nearby, you hear that laughter again, closer this time. It dances through the air, light and teasing, as though daring you to follow. You smile to yourself, amused by how easily you've been lured deeper and deeper into this palace of moonlit illusions. Honestly, at this point, if a talking cat in a jeweled turban appeared and offered you a cup of pomegranate tea, you wouldn't even blink. You take one last look at the moon hall, committing its beauty to memory, and then follow the sound of laughter through another archway, your curiosity pulling you onward. The Queen is leading you somewhere, and somehow you already know. You're not quite ready to leave this dream behind. The laughter grows softer as you follow, drifting just ahead of you like mist slipping through your fingers. You pass beneath another arched doorway, this one framed by tiles the colour of sea foam and dawn skies, their surfaces flecked with gold. Your fingertips glide over them as you walk, feeling the coolness of the glazed ceramic beneath your skin. And then, suddenly, the palace opens up again. You step into another courtyard, this one hidden away, nestled deep in the heart of the palace like a secret meant only for the most trusted souls. Here, the moonlight pours down in silvery cascades, illuminating every leaf, every petal, every stone. And in the centre of it all stands the Queen's dream, half-built, yet already more magnificent than anything you've seen tonight. The beginnings of her moon palace. Columns rise toward the sky, carved from pale marble that glows faintly under the night's gaze. Scaffolding of fine cedar wood still wraps around some of them, and tools, chisels, mallets, delicate brushes, are scattered neatly nearby, as though the artisans merely stepped away for a moment. You can almost feel the hum of creation in the air. This was where her true obsession began. They say she appeared here one night, barefoot, her hair loose and trailing behind her like spilled ink, her eyes fixed on the sky above. And in a voice soft but steady, she declared her intent, not merely to build a palace under the moon, but to create a home for it. A place where the moon could descend and rest its weary head, cradled by arches and surrounded by pools that would reflect its beauty back 1,000-fold. Naturally, the court was scandalized. They whispered behind silk fans and carved screens, calling her eccentric, dangerous even. But the Queen was unmoved. She summoned the finest builders, the most skilled tile makers, and the most visionary poets and mathematicians, not generals, not ministers, artists. Some had been banished from other courts for being too strange, too radical, too lost in their dreams. She welcomed them all. One such figure was a mysterious architect, a man known only as Nizam al-Falak, Order of the Cosmos. Some claimed he had studied under magicians in distant lands. Others said he had once been a scholar in Baghdad, cast out for claiming he could make buildings sing. Of course, historians today scoff at these stories. They prefer neat records, clear blueprints, sensible contracts signed with royal seals. But here, standing among the half-finished pillars and stacks of shimmering tiles, you can't help but wonder if the old tales might hold a grain of truth. You wander slowly, the soles of your feet brushing over fine white sand scattered between the stones, placed there to soften the workers' steps. Nearby, a shallow pool waits to be filled, its base covered in tiny mosaic tiles shaped like clouds and stars. The edges of the pool are lined with carved stone panels, each one bearing delicate etchings of birds in flight. You imagine how it must have looked in her mind, a courtyard where every surface glowed under the moonlight, where every wall whispered poetry, and every breeze carried the scent of blooming jasmine and ripe quince. You pause by one of the columns, running your hand along the smooth marble, feeling the faint grooves left by chisels long ago. There's something oddly soothing about it, as if the stone itself remembers the touch of hands guided by beauty rather than utility. And just as you begin to drift deeper into thought, you hear that now familiar sound, the soft laughter of the Queen. It echoes from somewhere nearby, carried on the night air. This time there's something different in it, a hint of mischief, as though she's daring you to follow just a little further, to uncover the next layer of her dream. You smile despite yourself. You've come this far. What's a little more moonlight and mystery? You take one last look at the courtyard, imagining the palace completed, bathed in the soft glow of 1,000 lanterns, each one reflecting the moon above. And then you step through another doorway, drawn deeper into the Queen's vision. Somewhere ahead, hidden beyond the unfinished arches, lies the next chapter of her story. And it's calling you as softly and surely as the tide calls to the shore. You follow the path, winding through narrow corridors where the air grows cooler, heavier with the scent of damp stone and something sweet, like rosewater mixed with cedar wood. The palace begins to shift around you. Gone are the open courtyards and moon-drenched halls. Here, the walls close in, curving softly, drawing you into a more intimate space. The tiles grow darker, deep blues and smoky greys, with flecks of silver like stars scattered across the floor. And then you emerge into yet another hidden chamber, this one overlooking the river Zayande, its waters glimmering faintly under the night sky. You pause, resting your hands on the stone balustrade, gazing out over the river. It winds lazily through the city, its surface reflecting the lanterns that line its banks, and the silhouettes of willow trees bowing gracefully toward the water. Somewhere in the distance, a flute plays a haunting tune, the notes rising and falling like waves. And just beyond the bend in the river you see it, the foundation of the Queen's Moon Palace, resting right at the water's edge. This was where she intended to anchor her greatest masterpiece, not hidden away within palace walls, but here, open to the sky, to the river, to the entire city. They say she wanted the palace to shimmer, not just under the moonlight, but in the reflection of the water itself, so that anyone who wandered near would feel as though they were stepping into a dream, caught between two worlds. It was a bold decision. The river, after all, had a reputation for mischief. It flooded when it pleased, swallowed entire gardens and market stalls, and twisted its course just to spite the city's best efforts at control. But the Queen didn't fear it. In fact, she welcomed its unpredictability. Some say she believed the river was alive, a spirit of its own, one that needed to be respected, not tamed. She chose this very spot because of it. Here, she believed, the Moon Palace would become something more than stone and tile. It would become a living thing, shifting, shimmering, breathing in time with the river and the night sky. Naturally, her advisors were horrified. They protested, claiming it was madness to build so close to the water. What if the palace flooded? What if it collapsed into the river? What if the foundations eroded? The Queen listened to their concerns politely. Then she dismissed them, all with a soft smile and a single sentence. Then let the moon learn to swim. You can't help but laugh quietly at that. It's hard not to admire her, really. Who else would dare to speak so lightly of a river known to drown entire districts? You lean on the balustrade, watching as the moon's reflection dances on the water's surface, and you wonder what it must have been like, standing here centuries ago, watching the first stones laid for such a fantastical dream. The workers would have been busy even under moonlight, stacking stones carved from white limestone, their surfaces polished until they gleamed like pearls. Sails from distant lands would have drifted past, carrying goods from India, China, even Europe, silks, spices, strange trinkets carved from ivory and jade. And somewhere in the shadows of the palace, the Queen herself would be watching, always watching. They say she often appeared without warning, dressed in simple robes, her feet bare against the stone floors, slipping through the construction site like a ghost. She spoke little but observed everything, her eyes lingering on every curve of an archway, every pattern etched into the marble. And when she did speak, it was only to ask one question. Does it still please the moon? It became a quiet joke among the builders, though never spoken too loudly. Does it please the moon? They would ask one another, grinning as they set each stone in place. But deep down they knew she was serious. For her, this palace wasn't just for beauty or pride. It was an offering, a way to touch something eternal, something beyond human grasp. You take a slow breath, letting the cool night air fill your lungs, and you feel it too, that strange pull, as if the river and the moon are conspiring to draw you deeper into their shared secret. The laughter returns, softer now, like the rustling of silk in the breeze. It beckons you away from the river, back toward the winding corridors of the palace. You turn, casting one last glance at the moon palace's foundation gleaming at the water's edge. And as you walk away, you can't help but wonder, what would it feel like to stand in a place designed not for kings or gods, but for the moon itself? Something tells you. You're about to find out. You step away from the river's quiet pool, following the laughter as it winds through the palace like smoke. The corridors grow warmer here, lined with carved panels of dark walnut and cedar, their surfaces etched with swirling floral patterns. The scent of the wood mingles with something faintly sweet, perhaps jasmine, perhaps something stranger, older. As you walk, your fingers trail across the carvings, tracing petals and vines that twist like they're alive. Some of the leaves seem to glimmer faintly under the lamplight, as though dusted with silver. And then you enter another chamber, this one small, circular, and utterly mesmerizing. At its heart, you find the secret behind one of the palace's most enchanting legends. The tiles of the moon. They're scattered across the room, stacked neatly on low shelves and arranged carefully on broad tables of polished stone. Each tile is no bigger than your hand, yet they sparkle as if lit from within. You pick one up, holding it carefully. It feels warm against your palm, smooth and cool at once, as though it's been waiting just for you. Its surface is covered in delicate glaze, pale blue, soft ivory, and flashes of silver, and when you tilt it, the colours shift, as if clouds drift across its face. It's said that these tiles were crafted using a secret formula known only to the Queen and her most trusted artisans. The recipe naturally has been lost to time, though many have tried to recreate it. Some say the glaze was mixed with ground pearls, others whisper about powdered moonstone, gathered only on the first full moon of spring. One particularly dramatic theory suggests they melted silver coins into the mixture, though historians scoff at that, calling it pure fantasy. Still, as you run your thumb over the smooth surface, it's hard not to believe in a little magic. You wander slowly through the chamber, marvelling at the sheer variety of patterns. Some tiles show curling vines and blossoms. Others depict swirling clouds or crescent moons, surrounded by stars. And each one seems to glow faintly but unmistakably under the dim light. They were meant to cover the walls of the moon palace, to create a space where every surface shimmered like moonlight on water. Imagine it, stepping into a hall where the walls themselves seem to breathe, to ripple with soft silvery light, changing as you moved through them. It must have been breathtaking, and yes, naturally scholars still debate whether such a thing was even possible. They argue endlessly over the techniques, the materials, the very existence of these so-called moon tiles. But here you stand, holding one in your hands, feeling its strange warmth seep into your skin. Perhaps history isn't always meant to be explained. Sometimes it simply exists, quiet, shimmering, waiting for someone to notice. You set the tile down gently, as though it might dissolve into mist at any moment, and continue through the room. In one corner, you find a low table scattered with brushes and tiny bowls of pigment, deep blues, soft greens, gleaming gold, and beside them a stack of parchment covered in delicate sketches. Floor plans, you realize, designs for the Moon Palace. Each one is more fantastical than the last. Spiraling towers, bridges that arc like rainbows, courtyards shaped like stars. You smile as you study them. The Queen wasn't content with mere beauty. She wanted to create something otherworldly, something that defied reason. A place where guests would feel as though they had wandered into a dream, where even the most grounded soul might look up and wonder if they'd somehow left the earth behind. You imagine her seated here late at night, surrounded by tiles and parchment, her fingers stained with cobalt and silver, sketching, planning, dreaming. You can almost hear her voice, soft but sure, as she asks herself that same question once more. Does it still please the moon? Somewhere nearby, the laughter returns. Softer now, more distant, but still playful. It drifts through the air like a melody half-remembered, urging you onward. You take one last glance at the tiles, their surfaces shimmering like frozen starlight, and then step back into the corridor, your heart pulling you deeper into the Queen's world. And as you walk, you can't help but think, perhaps some dreams are meant to last forever, especially the ones made of moonlight. You follow the corridor, the air growing thicker with each step, as though even the palace itself is holding its breath. Here the walls are darker, the tiles shifting from soft moonlit blues to deeper shades of indigo and midnight green. The patterns grow more elaborate too, vines twisting tighter, stars multiplying, almost dizzying in their complexity. And the scent, oh the scent. It's richer here. Layers of rosewater, saffron, and something else entirely, warm, earthy, and sweet. You pause as you realize what it is. Honey. Not the cloying sweetness of syrup, but a rich, subtle fragrance, like honey warmed by the sun, infused with wildflowers and citrus. You round the corner and step into a room unlike any other you've seen tonight. It glows softly, as if lit by the embers of a dying fire, though no flames burn here. Instead, the glow comes from the walls themselves. They're covered in a strange plaster, tinted with crushed saffron and brushed with gold leaf. The surfaces seem to pulse gently with light, creating the illusion that the entire room is alive, breathing, shifting, glowing. You've stumbled upon another of the Queen's eccentric creations, the saffron chamber. They say she ordered this room to be constructed not for entertaining guests or storing treasures, but simply because she loved the scent of saffron so much, she wanted to be surrounded by it at all hours. And not just any saffron. She demanded the finest, harvested at dawn from the fields near Kashan, when the flowers were still heavy with dew. The plaster was mixed with these precious strands, along with honey and water from rose gardens deep in the mountains. The result? A room that would forever hold the scent of springtime in bloom. You step inside and the effect is immediate. The air wraps around you like velvet, warm, soft, comforting. You can feel it sinking into your skin, your lungs, even your bones. And the walls shimmer faintly, casting soft ripples of light that dance across your face and hands. It's no wonder visitors once claimed this chamber could soothe any sorrow, calm any fear. They said even the most hardened soldiers wept upon entering, overwhelmed by the strange peace that settled over them. Of course, the scholars roll their eyes at such stories. They insist it was nothing more than clever engineering. The room's curves designed to amplify quiet sounds. The plaster's ingredients chosen to create a mild, relaxing scent. But standing here surrounded by honeyed air and golden light, you can't help but feel something more. Something enchanted. You wander further into the room, your footsteps nearly silent on the soft polished floor. And there, near the far wall, you discover a curious sight. Rows of clay jars, neatly arranged on wooden shelves carved with tiny moons and pomegranates. Each jar bears a different mark, some shaped like flowers, others like stars or crescents. You lift the lid of one, and a rich, intoxicating fragrance floods the air. Saffron pure, golden saffron, still potent after all these years. You replace the lid carefully, almost reverently. It's said that the Queen herself would sit here for hours, surrounded by these jars, simply breathing in the scent and dreaming. Some whispered that she believed saffron could unlock hidden knowledge, revealing secrets whispered by the moon. Others claimed she was simply addicted to its warmth, its sweetness, its promise of forgotten summers. And yes, as always, the scholars are divided. Was it spiritual devotion, or just extravagant indulgence? It hardly matters to you now. All you know is that this room feels like a cocoon, soft, safe, and strangely timeless. You settle onto a low cushion near the center of the room, allowing the warmth to seep deeper into your skin, and you find yourself drifting, your thoughts becoming slow and syrupy, like honey melting over warm bread. Somewhere nearby you hear it again, the laughter. This time it's softer than ever, barely a breath. But it's close. So close. You rise slowly, reluctantly, leaving the saffron chamber behind, and follow the sound through a narrow doorway hidden in the curve of the wall. As you step through, the scent of honey fades, replaced by something cooler, crisper, and you realize you're about to enter another world entirely. The Queen's dream is far from finished, and neither is your journey. The cool air brushes against your skin as you step through the narrow doorway, and the sudden change makes you shiver, not from cold exactly, but from the shift in the air itself. Gone is the golden glow and honeyed warmth of the saffron chamber. Here, everything feels lighter, sharper. The scent is different too, faint hints of mint, myrtle, and something else. Something metallic, like the smell of rain on stone. You find yourself standing in a long corridor, its walls inlaid with tiles so pale they seem almost translucent. As you walk, you notice the tiles are shaped like small, overlapping circles, their glazed surfaces shimmering like fish scales. And then it hits you. These tiles aren't merely decorative. They are designed to catch sound. Every step you take sets off the faintest echo, but not in the usual way. It's softer, rounder, almost as if the walls are humming in response, catching your movements and weaving them into something melodic. You slow your pace, testing it, and the walls respond again, releasing a quiet tone that rises and falls, like a lullaby sung by the wind. You've stumbled upon yet another of the Queen's oddities. The Whispering Hall. They say she commissioned it after hearing tales of faraway lands where entire temples could sing when touched by the breeze. Of course, no one believed it at first. Even her most devoted artisans thought the idea absurd. How could stone walls produce music? But she was undeterred. She summoned mathematicians and architects, demanding they study the geometry of sound, how it curved, bounced, and danced through space. For months they worked in secret, crafting thousands of experimental tiles, each one glazed and shaped by hand. Some cracked under pressure, others shattered completely. But slowly the hall began to take shape. The tiles were arranged with exquisite precision, following hidden patterns drawn from ancient star charts and obscure poetry. And when it was finished, the effect was nothing short of magic. The walls could sing. Not loudly, not like a human voice, but softly, gently, just enough to make you stop and listen. Some claimed the Queen would spend entire nights here, wandering barefoot through the hallways, trailing her fingers along the walls as they whispered back to her. Others said she used the hall for secret meetings, knowing the subtle hum of the tiles would mask any overheard conversation. Naturally, historians still debate its purpose. Some argue it was a clever acoustic trick, designed purely for entertainment. Others suggest it was an early experiment in architectural acoustics, far ahead of its time, but ultimately a technical curiosity. But standing here now, hearing the soft melodies rise and fall with your every step, you can't help but believe the old stories. You pause, placing your hand flat against the wall. The tile is cool beneath your palm, but you feel something else, a faint vibration, like a heartbeat hiding just below the surface. You close your eyes, listening carefully. The notes seem to shift around you, forming patterns that don't quite make sense, but somehow feel familiar, as if the palace itself is remembering something long forgotten. You open your eyes and continue walking, your footsteps now deliberate, playing the hall like an instrument. And the laughter returns. This time, it's woven into the music itself, so subtle you almost miss it. It rises and falls with the tones, playful and teasing, as though the queen herself is hiding just beyond the next corner, watching with amused eyes. You follow it, drawn deeper into the melody, until the hallway opens up into yet another hidden space. A chamber shaped like a perfect circle, with a domed ceiling carved to resemble a sea of clouds. The air here is crisp and cool, carrying the faint scent of myrtle and mint. And in the centre of the room stands a fountain, unlike any you've ever seen. Instead of water, it holds polished silver spheres, floating and spinning slowly, as if suspended by some unseen force. They catch the light from hidden lamps above, casting reflections that drift lazily across the walls. You step closer, mesmerized. They call this place the Chamber of Floating Moons, another of her eccentric masterpieces. Some said it was built to represent the phases of the moon, each sphere symbolizing a different moment in the lunar cycle. Others believed it was designed purely to soothe the mind, its gentle movements lulling visitors into a trance. And, as expected, scholars continue to argue. Was it a meditation chamber? A private observatory? A demonstration of some forgotten technology? But standing here watching the silver moons drift in their quiet orbit, you find yourself caring less and less about historical certainty. Some places are meant to be felt, not explained. You lower yourself onto one of the velvet cushions surrounding the fountain, letting the quiet wash over you. Somewhere beyond the walls, the river still hums, the city still breathes. But here, time seems to stretch and slow, soft as silk and sweet as honey. The laughter stirs once more, barely audible now, like the rustle of a veil in the wind. You smile, your eyelids growing heavy, and wonder where it will lead you next. Because one thing is certain, the queen isn't finished with you yet. You rise slowly from the cushion as if pulling yourself from a warm, weightless dream. The silver spheres continue their lazy dance, gliding through the air in perfect silence. But the laughter, soft, teasing, always just beyond reach, beckons again. You follow it, stepping away from the Chamber of Floating Moons and into yet another corridor. This one is narrow, its walls covered not with tiles or carvings, but with woven tapestries that stretch from floor to ceiling. They ripple faintly as you pass, the fabric shimmering with threads of silver, sapphire, and jade. The patterns are strange, abstract, almost hypnotic swirls that seem to shift and move if you stare too long. You run your fingertips along the edge of one, feeling the delicate embroidery, and the laughter flutters closer, as if pleased by your curiosity. The corridor begins to widen, and soon you step into a room awash in moonlight, a space so luminous you almost forget it's still night outside. It's the night of 1,000 lamps. That's what they called this chamber. Here, the Queen hosted the most secretive of her gatherings. Nights when only the boldest poets, the most daring artists, and the strangest philosophers were allowed inside. And what a sight it must have been. The room is lined with niches, each holding a lamp of blown glass, some shaped like flowers, others like stars or teardrops, all glowing with a soft, flickering light. They hang from the ceiling as well, hundreds of them, suspended on threads so fine they seem to float in mid-air. You watch as the lights sway gently, casting ripples of colour across the floor and walls. No shadows here, only endless reflections, overlapping like waves in a pond. They say the Queen designed this room to mimic the feeling of drifting through the night sky, weightless and free. Her guests would lie on cushions scattered across the floor, sipping sweet wine infused with lavender and myrtle, as musicians played the softest melodies on instruments made of silver and cedar. And above them, the lamps would sway, their glow shifting from blue to violet to gold, guiding the dreamers deeper into their own thoughts. But the lamps weren't merely beautiful. They were said to be infused with rare oils, each with its own purpose, some to soothe anxiety, others to spark inspiration. A few, whispered in hushed tones, were said to open the mind to visions. Naturally, this is where the stories grow murky. Some visitors claimed they saw entire lifetimes unfold in this room, memories not their own, dreams that felt more real than waking life. Others spoke of hearing voices in the lamplight, soft and distant like songs sung by stars. And as always, the scholars dismiss it all. Hallucinations, they say with a scoff. Fumes from the oils, clever tricks of the light. But as you stand here now, watching the lamps sway and shimmer, you wonder, is it really so hard to believe? The air is thick with perfume, notes of rose, amber, and something else beneath it all. Something sharp and bright, like the scent of winter air. You find yourself breathing deeply, letting it fill your chest, your head. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, your thoughts begin to shift. The room tilts just slightly. The lights grow softer, warmer, closer, and the laughter returns. It circles you now, weaving through the lamps, wrapping around your senses like silk. You can almost see her, the Queen. Her face half hidden by a gauzy veil, her eyes bright as twin moons, her hands trailing through the air as she moves through the crowd, unseen by most, but always watching. She was known to sit among her guests, silent and still, listening to every whispered conversation, every shared secret. Some say she never spoke in this room, not a word. Others claim she whispered riddles to those bold enough to sit beside her, riddles that would haunt them for years afterward. You wonder, idly, what she would have whispered to you. Perhaps something like this. Dream carefully, for some dreams refuse to let go. The thought makes you smile, even as your body grows heavy with the warmth of the lamps. It would be so easy to sink into the cushions here, to drift away with the sway of the lights. But the laughter tugs at you again, insistent, playful. You take one last lingering breath of the perfumed air and step forward, following its pull. As you pass through the next archway, the lights dim behind you, and the cool night air returns. The Queen's dream is far from finished, and you? You're nowhere near ready to wake up. The air cools as you leave the shimmering warmth of the lamp-lit chamber behind, your senses still tingling from the scents and soft lights. The laughter has faded into a hush now, a quiet hum that seems to vibrate through the very walls, leading you onward like a thread spun from moonbeams. You follow it, descending a staircase carved from dark marble, its steps worn smooth by centuries of passage. Here the walls grow simpler, no tiles, no tapestries, just polished stone, cool and slightly damp beneath your fingertips. And then you emerge into a chamber that feels like stepping into the belly of the earth itself. A subterranean hall, vast and echoing, where the air tastes faintly of minerals and something else, something sharp and metallic. This is the Hall of Hidden Waters. The Queen built it directly above an underground spring, a secret river that wound beneath the city, known only to a handful of scholars and mystics. They say she believed the spring held special powers, waters that could heal, or perhaps reveal truths hidden from the waking world. The space itself is breathtaking. Columns rise from the floor like petrified trees, their surfaces veined with gold and streaked with soft green malachite. The ceiling arches high above, forming a dome pierced by small openings that allow shafts of moonlight to spill down in narrow beams, illuminating the waters below. And at the heart of the chamber lies the spring. It pools in a wide basin carved from obsidian, the water so clear it's almost invisible, its surface perfectly still save for the faintest ripple every now and then, as though the earth itself were sighing. You approach slowly, drawn by its quiet allure. As you near the edge, you catch your reflection, but it doesn't quite look like you. Your face shimmers in the water, soft and blurred, as though seen through layers of silk. They say the Queen herself would sit here for hours, gazing into the spring, seeking answers to questions no one else dared ask. Some nights she came alone, wrapped in midnight blue robes, her hair unbound, slipping through the palace like a shadow. Other nights she brought her most trusted advisors, alchemists, poets, seers. Together they would lower small silver cups into the spring, drawing up its cool, mineral-rich waters, sipping in silence. And afterward, it said, their dreams grew strange. Visions of distant lands, long-lost kingdoms, forgotten ancestors. Some claimed they heard whispers rising from the depths, voices speaking in forgotten tongues, offering warnings or blessings depending on the listener. Of course, the scholars are quick to offer explanations. Minerals in the water, they say. Perhaps even narcotics from the strange herbs the Queen favoured. But as you kneel by the spring, watching your reflection blur and shift, you feel the tug of something deeper. It's not just the water, it's the stillness, the quiet pulse of the earth beneath your feet. The sense that this place is holding its breath, waiting. You dip your fingers into the spring, the water is cool, almost shockingly so, sending a shiver through your skin. And as the ripples spread outward, the laughter stirs again. Not distant this time. Close. So close you feel it brush against your ear, like a secret barely whispered. You glance around, half expecting to see her, the Queen herself, seated in the shadows, watching you with that amused, knowing smile. But the chamber remains empty, save for you and the silent, shimmering water. Still the feeling lingers, that you are being watched, not with malice, but with curiosity, perhaps even amusement. You rise slowly, the water drying cool against your skin, and begin to follow the laughter once more. It winds upward now, drawing you toward the surface, toward the moonlight waiting beyond the stone arches. And as you climb, you can't help but glance back one last time. The Hall of Hidden Waters glows softly below, its columns catching the light, like veins of gold buried deep within the earth. You know you'll remember this place, its stillness, its strange quiet power. And as you leave it behind, the Queen's voice seems to linger in the air, a soft echo in your mind. Some truths, like the moon, are meant to be reflected, not grasped. You smile faintly, your steps light as air, and follow her laughter once more, deeper into the heart of her impossible dream. You ascend from the Hall of Hidden Waters, the winding staircase guiding you gently back toward the surface. With each step, the air lightens, cool, then warm, then scented again with the soft trace of roses and myrrh. The laughter leads you upward, spiraling like smoke, playful but patient, as though it knows you'll follow no matter how many steps there are. Finally, the passage opens into a chamber unlike any you've seen yet. It's bright, so bright in fact that for a moment you squint, blinking against the glow. And then you realize it isn't sunlight, it's moonlight. You've entered the pavilion of mirrors. Every surface gleams. The walls, the ceiling, even the floors, everything here is covered in countless tiny shards of mirror, each one cut and set by hand, their edges softened with silver leaf and framed by delicate plasterwork. The effect is dazzling. As the moonlight filters through hidden skylights above, it fractures and multiplies across the room, scattering into a million soft beams that dance like fireflies. It feels as though you've stumbled into a pool of liquid light, weightless, endless, shimmering. You stand still for a moment, letting it wash over you. Your reflection appears everywhere. 1,000 versions of yourself gazing back, some sharp and clear, others distorted into graceful swirls and soft waves. It's disorienting but strangely soothing. They say this pavilion was the Queen's most personal retreat, built not to impress foreign dignitaries or entertain courtly guests, but for herself alone. A sanctuary. A place where she could be surrounded by nothing but light and reflection, drifting between reality and dream. She called it Ayina Kane, the House of Mirrors. And it was here, in this luminous cocoon, that she would spend her longest nights. Some nights she simply sat in silence, watching the moon rise and fall through the skylights, her face reflected endlessly in the mirrors around her. Other times she danced, alone. Barefoot, her silken robes trailing behind her like clouds, she would twirl slowly, letting the mirrored walls catch every movement, multiplying her image until it seemed as though the room itself were alive, spinning with her. The whispers about this place are plentiful, of course. Some claimed she used the pavilion for rituals, strange ceremonies meant to harness the moon's power. Others believed she practiced secret dances here, choreographies so precise they were said to unlock hidden doors in the mind. And naturally the scholars have their theories too. They speak of geometry, of optics, of clever architectural tricks meant to calm the senses and sharpen the mind. But standing here now, surrounded by endless silver light, you begin to understand. This room isn't about science, it's about surrender. About letting go of the need to understand, to categorize, to name. It's about being lost, deliberately, joyfully, within beauty itself. You take a slow step forward, your bare feet gliding across the cool, mirrored floor. The room responds instantly, scattering soft ripples of light with every movement. You take another step, then another, until you find yourself in the very center of the pavilion. Here the reflections converge. Above you the skylight frames the full moon perfectly, its glow pouring down like liquid silver. And all around the mirrors gather that light, twisting it into spirals and halos that seem to pulse with every breath you take. You raise your hand, watching as 1,000 silver hands rise with you. It's mesmerizing. You wonder what it must have felt like for her, the Queen, standing here alone, cloaked in moonlight and reflection, surrounded by nothing but herself and the night. Perhaps she wasn't trying to summon magic or unlock hidden secrets. Perhaps she simply wanted to vanish, to dissolve into the light, leaving behind only a shimmer, a whisper, a laugh. And speaking of laughter, there it is again, soft, close, intimate. You spin slowly, letting the sound guide you, and as you turn, you catch the faintest glimpse of her in the mirrors. Or perhaps it's just your imagination. A figure draped in silver silk, her face half hidden, her eyes bright with mischief. She lingers just at the edge of your vision, always slipping away the moment you try to focus. You laugh softly yourself, charmed by the game. You don't bother chasing her. Instead, you take one last lingering look at the pavilion, at the endless dance of light and reflection, and then follow the laughter once more, slipping through another hidden door tucked between mirrored columns. The Queen is still leading you onward, and you realize with a small contented sigh that you're more than willing to follow her. Wherever she might lead, you step through the hidden door, leaving behind the endless glow of the pavilion of mirrors, and the air shifts yet again. This time it's cooler, crisp, with a subtle fragrance of citrus blossoms and crushed herbs. The walls here are smooth and pale, unadorned except for thin lines of deep blue glaze that wind along their edges like rivers flowing through white sand. The laughter is softer now, but it's still there, faint and teasing, curling through the air like a breeze slipping through the leaves of a hidden orchard. You follow it. And soon the narrow corridor opens into a breathtaking sight, a vast garden terrace suspended high above the city, open to the night sky. The garden of night-blooming flowers. Here, everything seems touched by moonlight. The plants are unlike anything you've ever seen, delicate vines dripping with silver-white blossoms, their petals curled like tiny shells. Tall stalks crowned with pale blue buds that open only as you watch, releasing soft puffs of glowing pollen into the air. The entire garden glows faintly, as though every leaf and petal has trapped a piece of the moon itself. You step onto the terrace, and the ground beneath your feet is soft, paved with smooth tiles that mimic the ripples of water, their edges lined with soft moss. The air is thick with fragrance, jasmine, tuberose, honeysuckle, and something more elusive, cool and sharp, like mint or crushed fir needles. They say this garden was the Queen's final masterpiece, her private sanctuary, a place designed not for grand banquets or lavish entertainments, but for quiet nights spent wandering alone under the stars. It was here she grew her rarest treasures, flowers that bloomed only at night, their blossoms lasting but a few precious hours before fading back into the shadows. Some were imported from distant lands, brought by caravans that crossed scorching deserts and icy mountains. Others, they say, were her own creations. Bred by moonlight, watered with dew collected from the palace roofs, whispered to by poets and musicians until they learned to open only for her. Of course, the historians remain skeptical. Impossible, they insist. But then again, most of them have never seen a garden like this. You wander deeper, your fingertips brushing soft petals that release bursts of perfume with the slightest touch. Tiny moths with silver wings flit from bloom to bloom, their movements slow and dreamlike, as if even they have been lulled by the garden's spell. In the distance, a gentle stream trickles through the foliage, its water glowing faintly blue as it winds its way through narrow channels carved in the stone. You follow the sound until you find a small pool tucked into the far corner of the terrace. The water is still, reflecting the moon above and the shimmering blossoms around it. At its center floats a single flower, large, with translucent petals that pulse softly with light, opening and closing in time with your breath. They called it the heart of the moon. Legend says the Queen herself tended this flower every night, speaking softly to it, singing lullabies no one else was allowed to hear. And on nights when the moon was full, the flower would open completely, releasing a fragrance so intoxicating that those who inhaled it claimed to glimpse visions, memories of past lives, forgotten loves, or futures yet to unfold. Naturally, this story has been dismissed as fantasy by every scholar who's bothered to record it. But as you stand here watching the flower's gentle rhythm, feeling the cool air wrap around you like silk, you're not so sure. Perhaps the Queen simply knew something the rest of the world had forgotten. That there are some things, beauty, wonder, even magic, that aren't meant to be proven, only felt. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing deeply, letting the scents and sounds wash over you. And just as your thoughts begin to drift, the laughter returns, soft, playful, drawing you back from the edge of sleep. You open your eyes to find the garden bathed in silver light, the blossoms swaying gently as if they too are listening. The laughter fades again, leading you onward, deeper into the terrace's hidden paths. You follow without hesitation, slipping once more into the Queen's dream, where every step feels lighter, every breath sweeter. And somewhere in the distance, just beyond the garden's glowing embrace, you sense that the heart of her story is drawing near. The garden's soft glow lingers behind you as you follow the winding path that slips away from the terrace, leading you deeper into the palace's hidden heart. The air here feels cooler again, touched with the faint scent of pine resin and old parchment, dry, delicate, and faintly smoky, like the breath of an ancient library. The laughter drifts ahead, fainter now but steady, as if it's grown quieter on purpose, daring you to lean in closer, to listen more intently. Soon the path narrows and opens into a vaulted hall, its walls lined from floor to ceiling with scrolls, books, and tablets stacked in careful, reverent order. You found it. The Queen's Library of Forgotten Moons. This is no ordinary library. The shelves are carved from dark walnut, inlaid with lapis lazuli and shaped like the crescents and phases of the moon. Tiny silver stars are embedded into the wood, twinkling in the dim lamplight, as though the shelves themselves are constellations. The air is thick with the scent of old vellum, beeswax, and cedar oil. It's quiet here, so quiet that you can hear the faint crackle of candle flames and the soft creak of wooden beams settling under the weight of centuries. You step deeper inside, your footsteps muffled by thick rugs woven in swirling patterns of deep blue and gold. Everywhere you look there are books, some bound in soft leather, others wrapped in silk, many written in scripts you don't recognize. Some scrolls are tucked into niches lined with velvet, others rest open on reading stands, their pages filled with strange diagrams of stars, rivers, and dreamlike creatures that seem to shift as you study them. They say this was the Queen's most secret sanctuary. Not even her closest advisors were allowed here without her personal invitation. It was a place for quiet study and for other stranger pursuits. The whispers say she collected forbidden texts from every corner of the known world, treatises on the movement of the stars, manuals on ancient rituals, poems said to unlock hidden parts of the mind. Some visitors swore they saw her reading under the full moon, her face illuminated by both candlelight and moonlight, her eyes tracing lines of forgotten alphabets. And sometimes they claimed she spoke to the books and they answered. Naturally, scholars today dismiss such stories. They insist it was merely a collection of astrology charts, herbals, and poetry kept for scholarly purposes. But here you are, standing in the middle of this dreamlike space, and it's hard not to feel the weight of something more. You reach out to touch a scroll, the silk cool and smooth beneath your fingertips. As you unroll it, you see delicate illustrations, tiny, intricate scenes of palaces rising under crescent moons, rivers winding through glowing cities, towers covered in ivy and flowering trees. Each scene shimmers faintly, as if dusted with silver, and beneath the images are lines of poetry, written in a looping, elegant script. You can't read the words, but somehow their meaning hums through you, soft and familiar. It feels like a lullaby you've long forgotten. You gently roll the scroll back, and set it in its place, feeling a hush settle over the room. And then, there it is. The laughter again. Close. So close. You turn your head toward the sound and see, just at the edge of your vision, the faintest glimmer of movement. A figure slipping through an archway lined with silver ivy motifs. Without thinking, you follow. The corridor beyond grows narrower, the shelves curving inward as though guiding you toward a hidden heart. And at the very end, tucked behind a curtain of pale silk, you find a small chamber. A study. A single cushion rests on the floor beside a low table strewn with ink pots, brushes, and half-finished sketches of lunar phases and garden plans. The walls here are covered with faint murals, ghostly images of moons in every phase, layered over one another like ripples in water. And in the centre of the room stands a globe. But not of the earth. A globe of the moon. Carved from silver and mother of pearl, it turns slowly on its stand, each crater and mountain etched in perfect detail, its surface glowing softly in the dim light. They say this was her final project. The Queen spent countless nights here, mapping every phase of the moon, every shadow and shimmer, tracing its paths across the sky until she could predict its every movement. Her obsession, they called it. But perhaps it wasn't obsession at all. Perhaps it was devotion. A love letter written in silver and silence, addressed to the only companion she could truly trust, the moon itself. You watch the globe spin, hypnotized by its slow, graceful motion. And as it turns, you catch sight of your reflection in its mirrored surface, faint, blurred, but undeniably there. Somehow you feel as though you've been here before, as though you've always known this room existed. The laughter stirs again, but it's softer now, gentler, like a quiet breath in your ear. It no longer feels like a game of chase. It feels like an invitation. You know she's waiting. And so you leave the study behind, your steps light, your heart quiet, following her deeper into the palace's dreamlike embrace. The Queen's story is winding towards something. You can feel it. And you're ready to follow her all the way to its end. You slip from the study, the soft curtain falling closed behind you with barely a sound, sealing away the moonlit globe and its quiet mysteries. The corridor beyond is dim, but no longer shadowed with secrecy. It feels warmer now, almost expectant, as though the palace itself knows you're drawing near to something it has long hidden. The laughter has quieted to a hush, but it lingers at the edge of your senses, like a distant melody you can almost hum along to without knowing the tune. You follow it instinctively, your steps light, your breath steady. Soon you find yourself standing before a set of towering doors. These are unlike the others. No delicate inlays, no silver mosaics or shimmering tiles. They are carved from deep black wood, polished until they reflect the faintest trace of moonlight. Their surfaces smooth except for a single emblem at the centre, a crescent moon cradling a blooming lotus. The Queen's personal seal. Without hesitation you press your hands against the doors. They yield at your touch, swinging open with surprising ease. And you step inside the Queen's most intimate chamber, the sanctuary of silken dreams. It's a space of utter softness, curved walls draped in sheer fabrics, layers upon layers of silk in every shade of white, cream, and pale blue, fluttering gently with the slightest breath of air. There are no sharp lines here, no corners. The room flows like water, its ceiling arched and scalloped, as if you've entered the hollowed-out heart of a seashell. And at its centre lies the Queen's bed, not a grand, imposing thing, but a simple platform nestled within a nest of cushions and woven blankets, all shimmering with threads of silver and pearl. You step closer, your feet sinking into the plush carpets that cover the floor like moss. The air here is laced with soft perfumes, lavender, sandalwood, and something more elusive, a faint hint of amber and crushed blossoms. It's said this room was the Queen's ultimate retreat, her place of rest, of refuge, of dreaming. Here no ministers bargained, no artists performed, no servants whispered. Only she remained, wrapped in layers of silk, slipping between sleep and wakefulness, her mind adrift among the moonlit corridors of her imagination. And it's here that the most peculiar stories begin. They say she didn't sleep like others did. Not fully. Instead, she would lie in this chamber for hours, her body still, her breathing slow, as though in a trance. Some nights, her maids claimed, she whispered in her sleep, not in Persian, nor in any known tongue, but in words that seemed woven from music itself, soft and winding, like the wind through the cypress trees. Other times, they said, she vanished entirely, her bed empty, her silken robes untouched, only to reappear at dawn, her skin cool and glowing, her eyes filled with strange light. Theories abound, of course. Some call it a poet's exaggeration, mere myth woven around an eccentric queen. Others suggest her sleeplessness was due to illness, or too much incense and wine. But here, in this quiet, glowing chamber, it's easy to believe she found her way somewhere the rest of the world could not follow. You sit carefully upon the edge of her bed, the silks cool beneath your fingers, the scent of lavender rising softly around you. And as you sit, you feel it, that same hush you felt in every room she touched, not emptiness, presence, as if she's still here just beyond sight, watching you with those quiet moonlit eyes. You lie back, your head sinking into the cushions, your body wrapped in softness. The ceiling above shimmers faintly, light filtering through layers of silk, casting shadows that dance like drifting clouds. And for a moment you understand her completely. This need to withdraw. To escape the world of stone and politics, of feasts and whispers, and instead drift among fabric and fragrance and light. To become nothing more than breath and thought and dream. You let your eyes close just for a moment, and the laughter returns. But this time it's different. It's no longer distant or playful. It's right here, warm, soft, tender, curling through your thoughts like a lullaby. You don't know if it's coming from the room or from within your own chest. Perhaps here there's no difference. You drift, weightless, as the palace continues its quiet song around you. And just before sleep claims you entirely, you hear a whisper, so soft you're not sure whether it's real. Not all who dream are lost. Then silence. You don't know how long you rest there, wrapped in moonlight and silk. But eventually, gently, the laughter stirs once more. It doesn't pull you from the chamber. It invites you forward to continue the journey. You rise slowly, feeling the softness cling to your skin like a second breath, and follow the sound once again, deeper into the Queen's endless night. You slip from the sanctuary of silken dreams as if waking from the softest sleep, your body still tingling from the warmth and weightlessness of the chamber. The air outside feels cooler now, but not cold. It has the crispness of night nearing dawn, the hush that settles when the world holds its breath, waiting for the first thread of sunlight to stitch the sky back together. The laughter beckons again, but it's different now. Quieter, more distant, not playful anymore, but calm, almost reverent, as though it's leading you towards something sacred. You follow, your steps slower now, instinctively softer, as if the palace itself has hushed beneath your feet. The corridor ahead curves gently, spiraling downward like a river carving through stone. The walls grow darker, deep shades of lapis and indigo, speckled with tiny fragments of mirror that catch the faintest bits of moonlight, glimmering like stars scattered through a midnight sky. Soon you emerge into a grand rotunda, a vast circular space open to the sky above. The dome of echoes, it takes your breath away. Here the walls are carved with thousands of tiny niches, each shaped like a petal or a flame climbing upward toward the great dome overhead. The dome itself is smooth and seamless, its surface a deep dark blue that appears almost black, save for one extraordinary feature, a perfect circular opening at its apex, through which the moonlight streams down in a single radiant beam. It illuminates the centre of the chamber where a shallow pool of water waits, still and silent, its surface catching the light and sending it rippling across the walls in soft, wavering patterns. You step forward, every movement sending a faint echo through the chamber. It's said the Queen designed this space herself, collaborating with mathematicians and mystics to create a place where sound would travel endlessly. A whisper in the right spot, they said, could circle the room for hours, caught in the curve of the dome, weaving in and out of the niches before returning to the listener's ears, changed, softened, stretched. This was where she came to speak with the moon, alone. They say she would sit by the pool, her words barely audible, speaking softly to the light above, her voice threading through the air until it became something else entirely. A song, a sigh, a memory. And sometimes she wouldn't speak at all. She would simply sit in silence, letting the echo of her breath and heartbeat drift upward, carried away through the open eye of the dome. Some claimed she could hear the answers too. That the moon spoke back, its voice shaped by the stone and water, offering comfort or warnings in a language only she understood. Naturally, the scholars scoff at such tales. They chalk it up to clever acoustics and a vivid imagination. But standing here now in the quiet embrace of the dome of echoes, you feel the pull of something deeper. You walk to the edge of the pool, gazing down at your reflection in its glassy surface. It shifts and shimmers with every flicker of the light above, the moon's image fractured into soft ripples that reach toward the edges of the chamber. You take a breath. And then, without quite meaning to, you speak. A simple word, something small, private, meant only for yourself. But the room hears it. The sound travels outward, spiraling through the air, dancing across the walls, slipping through the niches. And then it returns. Softer, stranger, changed. It's your voice, yes, but stretched, smoothed, woven with the soft hiss of water and stone, as though the palace itself has swallowed it, tasted it, and now offers it back. You try another word, then another, watching in awe as each one takes flight, circling the dome like a flock of birds released into the night. It's beautiful, mesmerizing. And you suddenly understand why she built this place, why she came here, again and again, to send her voice into the dark, and listen for the music it became. This wasn't simply a room for sound. It was a room for surrender, for letting go of words, of names, of self, until nothing remained but breath and echo and light. The laughter stirs again, barely a murmur now, as if it too is caught in the slow spin of sound above. You close your eyes, letting yourself drift with it, your thoughts growing soft and slow. And as you listen to the echoes rise and fall, you hear something else hidden within them. Not words exactly, but something like meaning, a sense of being welcomed, of being seen. You open your eyes, and the beam of moonlight seems to grow brighter, wrapping around you like a thread, pulling you upward, toward the dome's eye, toward the sky beyond. The Queen's laughter fades completely, leaving only the echoes behind. But you don't feel her absence. You feel her presence everywhere, in the stone, in the water, in the soft hush of the air moving through the chamber. She isn't leading you anymore. She's already here. And somehow you know the next step is yours alone. You step away from the pool, leaving the echoes to swirl in your wake. and walk toward a narrow passage at the far end of the rotunda. It leads upward again, toward the light, toward the final secret waiting in this palace of moonlight and dreams. And you follow, ready at last for whatever lies ahead. You ascend once more, leaving the dome of echoes behind, though its soft murmurs linger in your ears like fading music. The passage spirals upward, carved into smooth stone that gleams faintly under your fingertips. The walls here are unadorned, no tiles, no silks, no mirrors, only bare stone, worn by countless footsteps over the centuries. But despite its simplicity, the air carries a quiet charge, as though the very stones remember every word spoken here, every secret shared in whispers too soft for time to erase. The laughter has vanished completely now. Yet you don't feel its absence. Instead, you feel its presence settled into everything around you, woven into the air itself. You climb higher, drawn toward a soft light that grows brighter with every step. And then, at last, you emerge into the open. You are standing atop the palace, the sky garden. It's not a garden in the traditional sense. No trees, no blossoms, no fountains. Only wide terraces paved with white marble, their edges lined with low walls carved into undulating waves. Above you, the sky stretches vast and endless, the stars blazing bright and sharp against the indigo night. The moon hangs high, nearly full, its silver glow bathing the entire terrace in soft, ethereal light. And beyond the palace, the city lies quiet and still. Isfahan asleep beneath the stars. But here, atop the Queen's dream, everything feels awake, alive. The Queen built this place, they say, as her final gesture, her highest and most secret space. No servants ever climbed these stairs, no courtiers, no poets, only she. And here under the open sky she would perform her simplest ritual. She would sit upon the highest step, her back straight, her face tilted toward the heavens, and simply breathe. Nothing more. No elaborate ceremonies, no whispered incantations. Just breath, in and out. Slow and steady, matching the rhythm of the wind as it swept across the marble and through her hair. They say she believed the sky garden was the true heart of her palace, not the courts below, not the gardens or fountains or mirrored halls. Here, stripped of all earthly distractions, she could exist exactly as she was, without crown, without title, without expectation. Only a woman beneath the moon. And as you step onto the highest platform, you understand. The beauty here isn't in what was built, but in what was left open. The night air moves gently over your skin, cool and soft, scented faintly with myrtle and stone. The city below glows faintly, its lights flickering like distant fireflies. And above, the stars burn so brightly it almost hurts to look at them. You stand still, letting it all surround you. There's a strange comfort in it, in knowing that she too once stood here, looking at this same moon, this same sky, feeling the same smallness and wonder you feel now. And perhaps that was always her intention, to remind anyone who reached this height that even the grandest palaces, the richest treasures, the most elaborate dreams, all of it, was nothing compared to this. The sky, the air, the quiet. Your breath slows, sinking with the wind, and for a moment you feel yourself blur at the edges, as if you are dissolving into the night. You close your eyes, and in the darkness behind your eyelids you feel her presence again. Not laughter this time, but something softer. A quiet, steady warmth. Not leading you, not teasing. Simply sitting beside you. Breathing. You open your eyes and nothing has changed, but everything feels different, lighter, calmer. You realize now she was never trying to escape the world. She was teaching herself to return to it, again and again, to find quiet amidst beauty. Stillness inside grandeur, To build a palace, only to remind herself that none of it mattered more than the moon above her head. You let out a soft breath, and the wind carries it away. No more laughter guides you now, but you no longer need it. You've reached the place where the Queen herself always ended her journey. And here, beneath the vastness of the sky, you feel exactly what she must have felt. Not lost, not small, but free. Completely, wonderfully free. You sit just as she once did and let the quiet cradle you. There is nothing more to chase, only this moment, only the night. And far below, in the depths of the palace, the echoes of her laughter continue to swirl, soft, eternal, patient as the moon. You remain seated there at the highest point of the palace, feeling the quiet deepen around you. The stars seem to drift closer, as if leaning in to watch you. The wind softens, wrapping around you like silk, tugging gently at your hair, your clothes, as though it recognizes you now, as though the palace itself is welcoming you as one of its own. For the first time since you arrived, there's no pull, no beckoning laughter, no hidden passage urging you forward, just stillness. And in that stillness, something stirs in your memory, an image of the Queen sitting where you now sit, gazing upward, her face aglow with silver light. They say she came here on the night of every full moon, without fail, wrapped in robes as pale as moonlight, her feet bare against the cool marble, her hands resting lightly in her lap. And she would wait, hours, sometimes. Not for a sign, not for a revelation, but simply to be in the presence of the night. The courtiers below would fret and whisper. She's mad, they'd say. Too much time alone, others would murmur. But they didn't understand. Up here, there were no questions to answer, no mysteries to solve, only the simple act of being. The Queen wasn't chasing visions or seeking secrets. She was letting everything else fall away. Every title, every demand, every weight she carried, they all stayed behind in the marble halls and mirrored chambers. Here, there was nothing but herself and the sky. And slowly you begin to feel it too. The release, the loosening of things you didn't even realize you were holding. Worries, names, expectations, even the memory of who you are beyond this moment. All of it slips away, as if the moon is gently lifting it from your shoulders, one breath at a time. The city below hums faintly, but it feels so distant now. Your only companion is the soft glow of the moon above, serene and steady. And then, something remarkable happens. The wind shifts, carrying with it a faint melody, so soft you almost miss it. It's not laughter, not quite music either, more like humming. A quiet tune carried through the air, weaving itself around you, familiar and new at once. You can't tell whether it's coming from the palace below, from the distant city, or from somewhere inside your own chest. But it's beautiful. And as you listen, something within you softens even further. You realize this was never truly about the palace, not about its tiles or fountains or chambers of light. It was always about this, the stillness, the breath, the return to yourself. This was the Queen's final lesson, the truth hidden behind every shimmering veil and silvered mirror. She wasn't leading you through the palace to show off its beauty. She was guiding you back here, to this place, to this moment, to the quiet you've carried within you all along. You smile softly, your heart slow and steady, and let the last of your thoughts dissolve into the wind. No more questions, no more searching, only the night, and the soft hum of something ancient and kind moving through the air. And though you know you'll eventually rise and leave this rooftop, this palace, this dream, you also know the stillness will stay with you, a quiet thread of moonlight forever tugging gently at your heart. You close your eyes one more time, feeling yourself drift between breath and sleep, between sky and stone, and in the distance, just as sleep begins to take you, you hear the Queen's laughter once more, soft, content, free. She's still here, always has been, waiting for anyone willing to climb the steps, to sit beneath the moon, and simply listen. Time becomes slippery here, as though the usual rules no longer apply. You remain seated beneath the moon, the melody still threading gently through the air, neither growing louder nor fading away, only circling as steady as the tides. The Queen's presence lingers with you, not as a shadow or a memory, but as something softer, a warmth in your chest, a quiet knowing in your bones. You're no longer following her footsteps, you're sharing the same space, the same breath, the same peace. Far below, the city continues its slumber, unaware of the stillness unfolding above its rooftops. And you realize something else now. The palace wasn't built to dazzle or to impress. It wasn't meant to stand as a monument to power or wealth. It was, from the beginning, a labyrinth designed to slow the heart, a spiral meant to lead you away from distraction, deeper and deeper inward, until everything else melted away, and all that remained was this: silence, breath, moonlight. You think of the Queen once more, of the stories told about her, the strange palace, the vanished nights, the impossible beauty she left behind. So many have tried to explain her, to pin her down in history books, to define her through dusty records and brittle scrolls. But here, under this sky, you see her for what she truly was. A woman who built herself a place to rest. A dreamer who shaped stone into sanctuary. Not for others, not for glory, but for herself, and for anyone willing to follow. You wonder how many others have sat here before you, quiet visitors in the centuries since her time, guided by curiosity or longing or accident, who wandered through her gardens and chambers, who chased her laughter through the winding halls. How many found themselves here at the end of it all, watching the same moon, listening to the same wind? It's humbling to think about, comforting too, because now you are part of that quiet, unseen thread, woven into the palace's story, another voice in its long, endless song. The wind stirs again, carrying the scent of night jasmine and cool stone. And then, as gently as a hand releasing its grip, the melody begins to fade. Not abruptly, not with sadness, simply drifting away like a ship slipping out of sight over the horizon. You remain seated, watching the last traces of sound dissolve into the night air. And in the space it leaves behind, there's no emptiness, only quiet contentment, soft as silk, steady as breath. You smile, knowing now that the Queen's laughter wasn't meant to lead you anywhere at all. It was simply a welcome, a reminder that peace isn't something to chase. It's something you already carry with you, patient, waiting for you to slow down enough to notice. You rise slowly, your body light and unburdened, and take one last look at the sky. The moon glows steady above you, ancient and kind. The city below slumbers on, and within you the stillness remains, woven through your breath, your bones, your very heart. Without a sound, you turn and begin to descend. No rush, no hurry. The journey is complete, and yet somehow it feels as though it's only just begun. You descend from the sky garden with the calm of someone who no longer needs to search. Your steps are soft, unhurried, as though the palace itself is guiding you downward, not as a guest now, but as an old friend who has been here many times before. The stairways curve gently, winding through familiar corridors bathed in soft shadows. You pass through chambers you've seen already, each one different now, quieter, as though they're resting too, content after sharing their stories. The mirrored pavilion, once dazzling, now glows with a quiet softness, the reflections hushed and still. The whispering hall hums faintly in the distance, its melodies now soothing and subtle, no longer calling you forward but letting you go, like a bird released from gentle hands. And the saffron chamber, once intoxicating, feels like a memory of warmth, its sweetness lingering softly in the air, enough to make you smile. Every room, every path, every tile underfoot reminds you the Queen wasn't building a trap of beauty. She was weaving a path home, and you followed it step by step, night by night, until now, when you walk not as a seeker, but as someone who has arrived. Soon you find yourself back where it all began. The entrance courtyard, bathed in moonlight, the garden still glimmering with silvered leaves and quiet pools. You pause there, standing beneath the same archway where you first heard the distant laughter, where you first felt the tug of something ancient and alluring. But you feel no need to linger. You've seen what lies beyond the laughter, beyond the winding passages and shimmering walls. You've seen what the Queen wanted you to find all along: stillness, breath, peace. The gates of the palace stand open now, inviting you to step beyond, back into the world that waits outside. But you don't rush. Instead, you take one last look back, not with longing, but with deep, gentle gratitude. The palace stands as it always has, silent, shimmering under the moon, a place both real and unreal, waiting patiently for the next traveller who might stumble upon its dream. And as you turn to leave, the wind stirs once more, brushing past your ear like a quiet farewell. But this time there's no laughter in it, only the softest whisper, woven from moonlight and silk. You'll carry this with you now. And you will. Because you know, as you step beyond the gates, that the Queen's palace has never truly been a place on any map. It is a state of mind, a sanctuary within you, a reminder that no matter where you walk in the world, whether through crowded streets or quiet fields, through noise or silence, there is always a place inside you where the moon waits, patient and serene. A place where you can sit again, breathe again, and remember, you were never lost. You were only learning how to return. And so you step into the night, heart calm, breath steady, carrying her quiet gift with you. The palace fades behind you, but the stillness remains. Soft, endless, home, end of script, sweet dreams.